He wanted a world without gods, but secretly has the power to summon the strongest god. As Yukito is carried by thousands of muscular men to the top of the hill for the Musubi ritual, a succession ceremony, led by his father, the leader of the questionable cult, he realizes the gravity of the situation. The ritual requires him to overcome death by surviving underwater for 3 days and emerge as the new leader of the sect. Despite his attempts to evade the ritual, Yukito's father is convinced that their omniscient and omnipotent god will ensure his son's safety, as he has surrendered himself to fate. Without a choice, they throw him off the cliff into the water, and Yukito's life flashes before his eyes. He has always suffered due to his father's unreasonable demands, making him an outcast in school, burning in fire, and enduring beatings during training. Even in high school, when he hoped his life would turn around, it was just a series of unfortunate events one after another. Ultimately, Yukito is emotionally drained and void of any positive memories. As he curses the god, he wishes to be reborn in a world devoid of religion or gods, to lead a normal life, if they do exist, that is. Yukito suddenly awakens to a girl vigorously squeezing his lever as a resuscitation technique and is startled to find himself alive. The girl, Aruraru, apologizes and introduces herself, offering to serve him until he is fully recovered. She informs him that she works at a restaurant and invites him to eat there for free whenever he wants. Yukito experiences a sense of déjà vu and believes he has been transported to a fantasy world. He suspects that this may be a reincarnation in another world type of scenario. Curious about the guild, Yukito questions Aruraru, but she has no idea what he is talking about and interprets his inquiry as a request for employment in the village. Yukito is excited to be in an alternative world, filled with swords and magic. He is relieved to be done with his previous life and eager to make up for lost time, but he had hoped for a more thrilling start to his adventure than a farming quest. Roy suddenly approaches Yukito with hostility, but Kurin intervenes, offering him a job and handing him a classic starter weapon, a dagger. Despite expecting to vanquish some goblins, Yukito is disappointed to find out that Kurin only needed help with the harvest. Nonetheless, he is determined to prove himself and puts all his effort into the task. They end up harvesting an abundance of fruit, but unfortunately, they have more than they can use and must throw out the excess. Drawing on his knowledge from his previous life, Yukito decides to make wine from the surplus fruit, which earns him praise from the villagers. Despite having worked hard for a month, Yukito has yet to experience any of the exciting adventures he had anticipated. Shiruriru, Aruraru's older sister, allows Yukito to live in the eatery that they run. Yukito has made some eccentric friends who are eager to have fun, but he is still waiting for his life of swords and magic to begin. While working the land once again, the villagers suddenly start running away from the forest. Finally, a monster appears. However, Roy explains that it is just a strange beast. Roy takes out his book and starts chanting while the sheep-like beast starts charging at them. Yukito eagerly anticipates an epic battle, but Roy suddenly just turns tail and runs, disappointing Yukito once again. As they seek refuge in a cave, Yukito expresses his frustration towards Roy for not fighting the strange beast. However, Roy clarifies that they stood no chance, and the book he was reading was a manual for escaping dangerous creatures and administering first aid. Gradually, Yukito realizes that magic does not exist in this world, which is quite different from what he had imagined. But all in all, it's not so bad. Aruraru notices that the villagers have become more cheerful since his arrival, and asks him to stay with them forever. Yukito accepts the offer, thanking God that there is no demon lord in this world. Aruraru is curious about the concept of a god, which prompts Yukito to contemplate the absence of religion in this world while taking a stroll in the woods. When he stumbles upon a dead creature, Yukito realizes that without religion he doesn't know how people bury the dead in this world. Just then, Roy and Aruraru surprise him, and Roy abruptly shifts to a serious tone. He asks Yukito if they are truly friends, and proceeds to whisper about a forbidden book that no one should talk about. Yukito is thrilled, thinking it's a book about the mysteries of this world, but he's just talking about erotica. In the quest to obtain the forbidden book, Yukito and Roy journey to the imperial capital. The emperor had taught them everything they needed to know about surviving in the new world. However, Roy cautions Yukito not to engage with anyone from the city, as their village is despised by the city dwellers. At the shop, they finally acquire the prized book. Upon opening it, Yukito is disappointed to find only art inside. However, for the villagers, it is the dirtiest thing they have ever seen. When Yukito comments that it is not a big deal, the villagers question where he comes from that he finds it normal. On their way back from shopping, they come across a crowd watching people conduct the end-of-life ceremony. The sight startles Yukito, but Aruraru quickly pulls him away. Roy reveals that their country has a system where people are ordered to end their own lives when the government deems it necessary. However, Roy assures Yukito that it doesn't apply to them since they are considered special. Later that night, Aruraru snuggles in with Yukito to test out techniques from the Forbidden Book to give men more energy. However, Yukito doesn't want to be the test subject, but still finds himself tied up. Aruraru snaps out of it and apologizes for her actions and sets him free. Yukito is still puzzled as to why their village is despised by the city. Aruraru explains that the village is home to all the outcasts who are marked as residents of the isolation camp. Anyone who doesn't align with the country's ways or fears death is sent here. She is delighted that Yukito is not disgusted by their presence, and instead eats, laughs, and teaches them new things. They are even allowed to touch him in various places. Yukito admits that the villagers are the first friends he has ever made, so they are in the same situation. During the interaction, Aruraru notices Yukito's necklace, which is the only item he brought with him to this world. It reminds him of the sect he belongs to, and he decides to give it to Aruraru as a gift. She is overjoyed and leaves for the night, pleased to have met him. However, in the morning, Shiroruru is crying, and Roy is struggling to come to terms with the fact that there is nothing he can do. Yukito discovers Roy beaten up in the yard and learns that the villagers are being targeted as deviants, and their lives are being taken from them by force. Today, it was Aruraru and her sister's turn. Yukito can't accept it either. Kuren shows up with a caravan, and they go in pursuit. Aruraru had to witness her sister's life being taken away right before her and is about to be next. But suddenly, Yukito jumps off the caravan and beats up a few soldiers, but is quickly surrounded. His anger only grows when he sees the older sister and fails to comprehend what makes them deviants for simply fearing death. The commander justifies their actions as a duty and slashes Yukito, then takes Aruraru's life in front of him. Yukito can't fathom why the kind villagers had to die, so he clings to his talisman and pleads for the one true god to save them. Suddenly, a beam of light envelops the talisman, which flies into the sky, clears the clouds, and from the sun transforms into a girl who descends to earth. She displays her power and is relieved that Yukito called upon her, stating that he can't survive without her. Upon realizing that Yukito is gravely wounded, Mitama's true nature is revealed as she purges the soldiers from this earth in an instant. She then proceeds to heal both Aruraru and Yukito. However, her claim over Yukito as hers does not sit well with Aruraru. Despite Yukito's lack of knowledge regarding the girl's identity, she has been with him all along. She is, in fact, Yukito's personal god, Mitama. The goddess Mitama has miraculously revived everyone who was previously subjected to the imperial execution. Despite the strange display, witnesses simply walk away without any sign of concern. Upon their return to the village, the trio somehow have forgotten about Kuren. Roy is overjoyed, and the villagers are perplexed as to how the girls managed to avoid the end-of-life ceremony. The situation calls for a celebratory drink, as they have miraculously survived the chaos. However, they have also angered the imperial capital, leaving Yukito wondering how he can protect the village. Unfortunately, they have no chance of winning a battle, neither economically nor militarily. Their only hope is Mitama, though the villagers remain unaware of the consequences her actions have brought upon them. In Aruraru's room, Mitama is behaving erratically, calling out for Yukito. Aruraru intervenes and asks about her relationship with Yukito, given that she had hugged him while naked. Mitama explains that she is Yukito's god, though the sisters have trouble comprehending the concept of a god. She clarifies that they are destined to be together until death, and Yukito belongs to her. Aruraru is shocked by the revelation, given that she has feelings for Yukito herself and believes he is married to a young girl. Mitama, however, is relieved to see that Yukito is admired in this world and gives her blessing to Aruraru. At the pub, Yukito asks Kuren about the country and the concept of end of life. He wonders why a person's life should be terminated compulsorily, and Kuren informs him that it was established by the emperor hundreds of years ago. Suddenly, Mitama jumps on Yukito, startling everyone. He explains that they come from the same country and have known each other for a long time. Drunk Roy notices Mitama and boldly asks her to be his bride, but Mitama is disgusted and calls him filth. Her rejection is so strong that Roy goes ape bananas, disgusting everyone, including Kuren. As a result, he is used as a target for blindfolded knife-throwing practice. Determined to uncover Mitama's true abilities, Yukito asks her about her godly powers. He is astonished to learn that Mitama can do anything and is the strongest god in existence. Yukito wonders if she could defeat an imperial army with ease. This discovery is a game-changer for him, and he is delighted to have found his cheat code for the new world. Mitama decides to demonstrate her abilities to Yukito, but only creates a cup of wine and spills it on Roy, who is now treated like garbage by the girls. Yukito hopes that this is not the extent of Mitama's abilities. Baffled, she checks her followers, only to find that she has none. The more followers a god has, the more powerful they become, but no one believes in gods in this new world. Yukito is furious, but then Mitama wonders why it's zero. How about Yukito himself? She reveals that she used the last of her powers to save Yukito and the villagers. Suddenly, news arrives that the imperial capital has started an investigation into the Mitama incident, and the army will be coming to the village. Roy remains unconcerned, believing that Yukito will sort everything out, so they can return to drinking. Yukito exits the pub with a heavy heart, his mind consumed with fear about the impending danger facing the village. Seeking refuge at the spa, he shakes with uncertainty, uncertain about how to approach the situation. He worries that his inaction will lead to the death of the villagers. Suddenly, Mitama appears, surprising him with her omnipresence. Yukito confides in her about his worries for the village. Mitama suggests that they flee, but Yukito refuses to run away again. He realizes that he has always let things happen to him without putting up a fight. With no other choice, he decides to make Mitama a god in this new world, creating a religion in her honor. He has made up his mind to take a stand for the first time. Yukito decides to share his plan with Roy, but he's taken aback by Roy's interpretation of serving or becoming a follower, which is quite different from what he intended. Despite a lack of proper explanation, Roy is eager to join and becomes Mitama's first follower, though Yukito remains a non-believer. They both recognize that the best way to gain more followers is through miracles, but Mitama's powers have been weakened. They consider starting with speeches, but Mitama refuses, preferring to rely on the knowledge she's accumulated over billions of years of existence. She calls on the people to worship her and shares her insights, which focus mainly on Yukito and his past. Yukito begins to doubt his decision to trust in her and decides to pursue his own path. The villagers are confused and shocked when Yukito declares Mitama a god and puts her on a pedestal. He claims that she can perform miracles like reviving the dead, scattering armies, and knowing everything about the past, present, and future. To prove it, he mentions that Aruraru is having relationship problems. The villagers are amazed, and Aruraru thinks that Yukito has finally noticed her feelings for him. However, Yukito reveals that Mitama used her godly powers to peek into Aruraru's heart and tell him. This is just a Barnum effect, a psychological trick where something vague is said, which applies to anyone, and the one hearing it starts believing it's all true. Mitama steps in and says that reading minds is trivial for her. She then shocks everyone by announcing that Aruraru is agonizing over her weight and that Yukito prefers smaller breasts, which doesn't sit well with Aruraru. She then asks someone to hand her an axe to remove this useless meat right now. Yukito is alarmed and confesses he likes them big, but Aruraru decides to believe in Mitama since she can peek into the hearts of others. Yukito is in a state of panic, as it's hard to gain followers when your god is deemed useless. However, he is determined not to give up just yet. Thus, he starts to try and perform magic tricks, disguised as miracles. But in the end, the only follower Mitama has is still Roy. Mitama herself starts to realize her worthlessness. Creating a religion is not an easy task, and Yukito recalls his dad and how effortlessly it came to him. Suddenly, Aruraru bursts in with the news that the cat thing named Chil has ingested some anti-pest poison. They need to bring her to the vet, but the imperial capital won't do anything for non-human lives. They don't have the medicine to treat Chil. Upon hearing this, Yukito returns at night with some herbs that might act as an antidote. When Chil drinks it, everyone is delighted, but she quickly spits it out, and the light leaves her eyes. Seeing everyone saddened by Chil's condition, Mitama uses her magic to revive her. The girls are amazed, but Mitama herself is exhausted. That was all the power she received from the perverted follower. After checking the number of followers, she perks up as it has increased to 3. She suddenly has an abundance of power and claims that the girls are somehow special. Yukito surmises that the way someone becomes a follower affects the amount of power Mitama can use. The girls witness Mitama's godly powers firsthand. On the other hand, Roy is different. Mitama wants to prove her omnipotence, and Aruraru has a favor to ask. She wants to bring the soldiers from the capital back to life. Yukito is unsure if it's a good idea, especially the Bertrand guy, but Mitama is already on it, and with a poof, they are brought back to life. However, they see someone they don't recognize, a naked woman who turns out to be Bertrand. Mitama has accidentally switched his gender. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this.